Hello, this is PitStop 2, and this is another game that's on the Commodore 64 plug-and-play TV device. This was one of the first games that I ever played on the Commodore 64 when I got the computer way back in the mid-80s. This was one of the many games that I got with it, and I absolutely love this game right from the word go. For those of you who watched my video yesterday, PitStop, you can see straight away this game is a vast improvement. The graphics are a bit more 3D-like. The angle seems to be at a much better level. But more importantly with this one, you're actually racing against another car. Even in the single player mode, you have your rival, and that's the fella at the bottom of the screen. And the objective is to finish in front of him. And this does transform the game quite significantly from just being the kind of relatively boring game where it's just about managing fuel and tyres to a much more interesting game where you're actually racing against somebody. I played this game for hours and hours and hours when I first got it. I mean, I think went through the various difficulty settings as well and mastered the game, but unfortunately, I mean, I'm nowhere near good enough to do that now. But I really, really love this game. Even now, I got a lot of enjoyment playing it to make this video. And primarily, it just was one of those games that was really well put together and has sort of stood the test of time. You can have two player, but obviously the limitation of the plug and play is you only get one joystick, so the two player option is kind of out the window, which is a good job really that there is the computer controlled car, otherwise this would become another boring racing game. This time round it's a bit more strict as well with regards to pit stops. You are going to get tyre wear and your fuel level is going to decrease. The computer control, well, the other cars on the track are a bit more of a pain in the backside to get out of the way of, as you can see there, and so they cause more tyre wear and you end up burning up more fuel. I mean, as you can see, my fuel level is much lower than my opponent's because I got stuck behind that car, and also because I've been doing a higher speed as well. The only drawback I have with this game, and it might be the fact that I'm playing it wrong, but it seemed that I needed to press and hold the fire button as well as push forward. Now that could be just me being rubbish, but I did find that a little bit annoying, and I seem to remember it causing serious hand cramps back in the day. And I don't see why. It seems like you have to press the fire button down in order to gain the top level of speed. Much like the original PitStop, your tyres change colour, but it's a bit more subtle this time. As you can see, there's like a little line that goes across, kind of indicating the light reflecting off the worn tyre. That gives you a much better indication. I mean, the graphics are superior all round. You know, the whole game itself is far much better than the first, and it's like I said in my previous video, it almost seemed a shame to put the first game on the same compilation because there's no real point to playing it when you've got the sequel, which is a much better game. There just seems very little point in playing the original unless you're a completionist, and that really isn't surely that really isn't the objective behind having these compilations. Surely it's about cramming as many different games as you can into one compilation. So I would have rather them drop PitStop and put a different game on there than have PitStop and PitStop 2, when this is just a far better game. It's a far better representation of what the idea was originally in the first game. Those bloody computer controlled cars on the track can be a real pain, just by virtue of the fact that they could just swing in front of you on the track. It just sort of adds to the challenge a bit, especially when you get stuck behind one like that and you're trying to get past him. There are different circuits as well in this game, which I think are better circuits to race on. Although, again, disappointingly, there's no real discernible difference. Again, they seem to be the same colour, backdrops and what have you. And by this stage, the Commodore 64 was capable of better. It's a nitpick, but it would be nice if it had some variation. It's certainly a brilliant game, and it's certainly one of the best racing games that came out on the Commodore 64 at the time. But the lack of variation does sort of kill the longevity of the game somewhat, because you're just racing around on the same type of track all the time, and that does become quite irritating. But I mean, it was the Commodore 64, and it's a game that's 26 years old. How much complaining can you make about it? The pit stops also have been a bit more refined here now. There's only 2 guys to control, which makes life a lot easier. And you know, it's just better all round. Just has that better look, better feel, better design. And when you consider the difference between this game and its precursor, and you look at sequels today that really bring so very little to the table, I mean, okay, you can argue the toss that, you know, there was a lot of room for improvement, and as a racing game, it's easier to make those type of improvements. But even so, the limitation of the hardware was still the same, and yet there was obviously so much more done in the development time, or put into the development time, to make a much better game. And you see a lot of sequels that come out these days, and they're just almost carbon copies of the first game. They might have improved the graphics here and there. They might have tried to introduce some sort of, you know, flashy, complex, plot-twisting story to the sequel. But in the actual gameplay mechanics itself, there's very little difference. I mean, this game just plays so much better, and it's so much more a better game, which is what a sequel should be. You know, it's not like making a sequel to a movie whereby, you know, you're trying to continue the storyline. Obviously, you always want it to be better than the previous film, but invariably a sequel is a continuation of a story. In video games, the sequel should be something that is significantly better than its predecessor. If not, what's the point in doing it? You know, in all of the modern games, there's so little difference. Even graphically, these days, it becomes quite difficult to tell the difference between the prequel to a game and a sequel. And it can be so disappointing, especially when you're paying £40 or $70, however much you pay, $60-70 for a game. It becomes exceptionally disappointing when the game itself isn't significantly different to the one that's gone before it. And, you know, as I say, it's something that's up for debate, but I mean, you just know that the latest Modern Warfare game, or the whatever, is going to have some improvements, or at least you would hope it would. But essentially, it's going to be pretty much the same game as the one that came out last year. and the one that came out the year before. There's not enough time allowed to developers for innovation. And I'm sort of going off a bit on a rant here, but I just think that when you can see that this is how sequels were and how sequels have become, I mean, it's I don't know. I'm just rambling, just ignore me. I'm just rambling on, but I just wish that there was more development time, so a game that's released, you know, a sequel to a game that's released actually has significant and notable improvements that make it worthwhile reinvesting a considerable amount of money in them. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I can't really think of much else to say about PitStop 2. It's difficult to elaborate really on a racing game, but it is so enjoyable to play. There's great satisfaction in beating the computer-controlled driver or the AI driver. I don't know how much artificial intelligence was actually used for this, but you do get quite a tremendous amount of satisfaction from it. And certainly I would say to invest more time playing this game than actually playing the original PitStop. It's just more rewarding, more satisfying, and it's just a better game all round. And those type of improvements are very, very important. As I say, the main the main disappointment for me is just, as you can see here, is a total lack of variation in the graphics. But you know, that was something that you sort of was more accepting of in the day than we are now. You know, just sort of the same graphics for each track. So yeah, I'm really rambling on a bit there, but yeah, I enjoy this game. I think it's well worth, if you can get hold of the TV game, it's well worth having a play of. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thanks.